Philippine newscast for June 14 to June 20, 2013. Good day to everyone. Magandang araw po sa inyong lahat and welcome to the website of Philippine News. These are our stories for the day. We'd like to start with the news that despite record growth, the jobless number climbs and President Aquino says the rise to 7.5% unemployment is due to temporary humps. The Philippine jobless rate soared to a 3-year high in April, even though the nation has the fastest growing economy in Asia. Official data showed last June 11, President Benigno Aquino insisted the rise to 7.5% was due to temporary problems in the farming sector. But economists said it highlighted huge challenges facing the government as it strives to fight poverty. The high unemployment rate casts doubt on the robustness and inclusiveness of recent growth statistics. The unemployment rate in April was up from 7.1% in January. Another 19.2% were listed as underemployed or part-time who work for less than 40 hours a week. Aquino said a weather-dictated delay in this year's planting season, which meant many of those surveyed declared they were temporarily out of work, caused a rise in the figure. This was offset by improvements in the industry and service sector. Wage and salary workers working full-time increased in both sectors. Nevertheless, the rise occurred in the nation's economy, grew an annualized 7.8% in the first 3 months of the year, the fastest pace since Aquino came to power in 2010. Next in line is the news about President Aquino meeting Myanmar's Aung San Suu Kyi, and both reformists renew long ties. The meeting between President Benigno Aquino and Myanmar's opposition leader Aung San Suu Kyi focused on economic and political reforms that are taking place in two countries. President Aquino met with Suu Kyi, the chairperson and Secretary General of the National League for Democracy, on the sidelines of his attendance to the 22nd World Economic Forum in East Asia. According to Secretary Ramon Carandang, this is the first time for the two leaders to meet. Former President Corazon Aquino, during her term, was very vocal in supporting Suu Kyi, and when President Benigno Aquino assumed office in June of 2010, he was also one of the ASEAN leaders who was most vocal in prodding the government of Myanmar towards reform. The meeting between President Aquino and Aung San Suu Kyi is really a culmination of all these efforts between the two leaders and the two countries over the last several decades. So it's only appropriate that the two leaders, known for their commitment to democracy in this region, should meet. The government of the Republic of Union of Myanmar has initiated a series of political and economic reforms, including allowing Suu Kyi to contest parliamentary by-elections in April of 2012. This time we tackle the news about the Claire Joyce Tempongco case, wherein the San Francisco murder verdict stays and Supreme Court affirms the definition of the crime of passion. Julia Tempongco received an early birthday gift last week. The California Supreme Court on June 3rd reinstated the murder verdict on the man convicted of stabbing her sister over 20 times some 13 years ago. Julia Tempongco, a visual merchandiser with an upscale clothier, will mark her 29th birthday this coming July 10. She'll be a year older than her late sister, who was 28 and aspiring to become an accountant while dealing with an on-again, off-again relationship. Claire Joyce accessed all legal means to protect herself from her violent ex-boyfriend, but he was released by authorities despite having violated a restraining order and mandated domestic violence counseling for perpetrators. On the early evening of October 22nd, year 2000, prosecutors say he waited for her and her children to get home. cursed her, pummeled her with his fist, and stabbed her multiple times. Dario Ramirez then fled to his native Mexico, where he was arrested 6 years later, tried, and in 2008, convicted for second-degree murder. He blamed his rage on what he alleged was Claire Joyce's disclosure that she had been pregnant with his child and had an abortion. According to Justice Carol Corrigan, in announcing the reinstatement, provocation is adequate only when it would render an ordinary person of average disposition liable to act rashly or without due deliberation and reflection, and from this passion rather than judgment. And finally, we have the latest news about the Navy ship BRP Alcaraz as it sails home to the Philippines. More than a year after it was turned over by the United States, the Philippine Navy's latest acquisition, the BRP Ramon Alcaraz, finally sailed for Manila last June 10 in a voyage that would take almost 2 months. The Alcaraz left shortly before 10 a.m. last Monday, a day after Ambassador Jose Quisilla visited the Alcaraz and challenged the crew to live up to the reputation of the World War II hero that the ship was named after. According to Captain Ernesto Baldovino, commanding officer of the Alcaraz, the officers and crew of Alcaraz are looking forward to their return to the Philippines and perform their duty to protect the country's maritime domain, particularly in the West Philippine Sea. The crew spent 13 months in Charleston, South Carolina, to train in how to operate what was once the U.S. CGC Dallas, a Hamilton-class Coast Guard cutter, and in overseeing its retrofitting. Captain Baldovino said the training under the U.S. Coast Guard exposed the crew of the Alcaraz to modern equipment and prepare them for the future upgrading of the country's naval capabilities. And this has been your weekly news in review. This news has been brought to you by the premier Filipino-American newspaper right here in the United States, the Philippine News. On behalf of the management and staff of the Philippine News, this is David Rodriguez signing off and thanking everyone for watching. Maraming salamat po. Have a wonderful week and mabuhay po sa inyong lahat.